Congressman Andre Carson is calling for a deeper investigation into UFOs.
He wants congressional hearings on the issue following a declassified Pentagon report on dozens of sightings that can't be explained. Fox 59's Kristen Eskow joins us in studio right now with more on Carson's reaction to those findings. Kristen.
Well, Daniel and Baruchel, in their report, the U.S. intelligence and defense officials did not list outer space or extraterrestrial life as a possible explanation for those sightings, but they also didn't explicitly rule it out. Well, Congressman Andre Carson says it's a national issue.
If there is technology out there that we can't explain, that has huge implications for the safety and security of the American people.
Congressman Andre Carson, who serves on the House Intelligence Committee, says investigating sightings like these needs to be a priority. A recent Pentagon report shows nearly 150 sightings of unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, since 2004. The report says only one could be explained.
Even though the report didn't give us all of the answers, I think it's very significant because it represents a big shift in the way our intelligence handles this issue.
On network news this past Sunday, Carson called for more congressional hearings on UAP sightings. Before the report was released, Carson chaired a classified briefing for his counterintelligence subcommittee on the findings.
When we take UAPs more seriously and treat it like the potential security risk that it is, it brings us closer to getting answers.
U.S. officials cited several possible reasons for the sightings in their report, including airborne clutter such as balloons, atmospheric matter like ice crystals, or technology from another country. Although it didn't explicitly list an extraterrestrial explanation, Carson says it's not completely off the table.
I think a lot of folks would like for us to say that these sightings are extraterrestrial. The intelligence community says we can't completely rule that out, but it's clear we have to do a lot more digging.
Now, Carson also says he's pleased with the recent report, saying it shows the intelligence community is taking the issue more seriously. He hasn't been able to give a timeline just yet for when any congressional hearings could happen. Kristen Eskow, Fox 59 News.
Kristen, thank you.
You raise a very good question. In fact, that's the reason that our most recent book is called Case Closed, because we present it like Roswell's Day in court by providing an opening argument, then evidentiary, and then all the eyewitnesses, and then a closing position, which is basically we feel we've taken this as far as anyone possibly could, and that from all impressions, all conclusions, all eyewitness testimony, including deathbed, which are admissible in a court of law, we feel we have proven this beyond any shadow of a doubt. We were never optimistic that there would be any disclosure of any sort, only because of the long track record with the Pentagon specifically, and the fact that the Air Force, which one would think was in charge of our sovereign airspace, has already had 3 studies on the phenomenon, Project Sign, Project Grudge, Project Blue Book, that discounting the subject, actually stating that there was no UFO phenomena, there's nothing there, people aren't seeing anything, that they would acknowledge anything. The interest being now with the Navy speaking out, and one branch of the military being in competition with another. The thought was that maybe the Navy is finally fed up with the Air Force speaking on their behalf, and maybe they'll finally, say something, even with a small d, for disclosure. My disappointment is in that they do not acknowledge the history, that they have made this contemporary, that they present a situation of only concerning reports, experiences, sightings since 2004, when in reality the phenomenon clearly goes back to 1947. They brandish this word threat around as though it's something new. What, wasn't a threat back in the 40s, back in the 50s, 60s, and there? So in other words, they're revising history. And the moment you start doing that, you're once again, you're twisting reality, and you're being less than genuine. You're actually being quite disingenuous. And so it's like, we could have predicted this. To us, it's absolutely nothing new. What is new is that by their acknowledging that there is a phenomenon, that something is there, and that they are investigating it, they are looking into it, it's removed the stigma. Because now the skeptics can't say, once again, you're chasing ghosts, nothing new. No, now at least us, we ufologists can say, well, we're investigating the same thing. We have been all along. Welcome to the party. In many respects, we've come full circle. Even as early as 1947, the military was conceding the phenomenon was real. There's that famous Nathan Twining, the four-star general, letter from 2 months after Roswell, where it states the phenomenon is real and not visionary or fictitious. Then it goes on to describe the shapes, 30 to 50 feet in diameter, that they are able to outmaneuver anything we have, and that we need to have a full-scale investigation. Well, that almost sounds a little familiar, doesn't it? So then the very first project was called Project Sign. They submitted their report to the then Secretary of the Air Force, General Hoyt Vandenberg. And Project Sign's conclusion at the end of 1949 was, it's extraterrestrial. So there was a conclusion. And Vandenberg ordered the report burned, that the public was not ready. So it's like, been there. I mean, it's long before my time, but in being a student of the history, it's like, why do we keep spinning our wheels on this? Why did we keep revisiting what we have long known? Because the United States government already acknowledged the existence of the phenomena back in 47, in 49, and in different reports and studies since. So do I expect anything new? Just the same old shell game about now you see it, now you don't. And that's sad, because you young people, you especially deserve to know the truth, because you've grown up in the space, I have, the space race, race to the moon, Star Trek, Star Wars. We've all been conditioned to accept that maybe something else is out there. So that makes it all the more suspicious as to why they have such a hard time acknowledging what we all would readily accept. I mean, if they were to make the announcement tomorrow, it's like, yeah, we know. We've been accepting it for all these years. The difference with Roswell and just about every other UFO event is that you have taken a physical possession of a craft, of bodies. It's something you can take into a lab and you can analyze and autopsy, and you can actually attempt reverse engineering. All other UFO events are something fleeting. It's something in the sky, even on the ground, but now you see it, now you don't, and it's gone. But with Roswell, you have the physical evidence that would demonstrate beyond any doubt that we're dealing with an off-the-earth technology. And so, because of that, the documentation alone, the level of photographs, of film, of lab tests, reports, and all the failed efforts in trying to ascertain the nature of the material. I mean, it'd be enough to fill up a whole room. So that's another reason the investigation continues, with the confidence that someday something's going to leak out, and it will be irrefutable. It will demonstrate, especially if it's a piece of the actual physical craft, that we are dealing with someone else's technology. At the moment, we're working with the descendants. The World War II generation, sadly, they're just about all gone. Our witnesses, as we've interviewed to date over 600 people, either directly or indirectly involved. And many of them, over 150, firsthand, describing the characteristics of the nearly indestructible metal-like material, the bodies that were recovered at the crash site. And clearly we're dealing with something off the planet based on all those eyewitness accounts. So in dealing even with the families, now we're losing the families. Even the sons and daughters are passing away. So the race with the undertaker is over. They've won. But all that information, all that testimony, all the way to their deathbed testimonies confirming that this is all true, that this genuinely happened back in 1947. It's provided us with a wealth of information, of material to still study and contemplate and then understand and realize that we had the good fortune of meeting all those brave souls who had the courage to come forward and go on the record and state that this indeed did happen. We've had many false alarms. We've had dozens of potential opportunities where it was claimed that so-and-so still had a piece in their possession, or a piece was just found, or an old Army footlocker in an attic, had, evidence that the families wanted to turn over to us. We have to investigate every such lead, just with the slightest chance that it may be true, it may be genuine. But again, to our frustration, nothing has been. Whether photographs, slides, film, wreckage, everything has been a false alarm so far. But there's still, the good chance that someday it will be the genuine article. I will point out and emphasize that the entire situation with the congressional UAP report, that there is no mention of Roswell, and that's also by intent, that's also by design. And what we need to see, Congress needs to step forward and call for hearings, congressional hearings, and people be granted immunity, especially military whistleblowers, that they can step forward, go on the record, and describe, their own personal UFO encounters. And I think anything short of that will not be as far as accepted on my part. We need to move the ball forward. We need UFOs to be brought to the forefront, because we are, if all true, we're dealing with the biggest story of the millennium.